Yes.
Alcohol great.
It makes you feel better about yourself for eating the cholesterol.
Exactly.
They don't mix very well, but
one enables the other, and vice versa.
and the one enables the other to make you feel better about eating the other one.
Exactly.
Or drinking. You could drink cholesterol too.
You could drink it and have a garbage plate. You could have food and say, I hate myself, I need alcohol, now I feel better.
Yep.
Go one way or the other.
I'll talk about these. Yep.
You still want me to hold up a sign that says Jesus number 1. You still want me to hold that out.
You have it, dude.
I left it in the car, so sorry. Go get it.
You've got 2 minutes. I've got 2 minutes. 1 minute, sorry, 1.
If you hack this RL,
Or do a magic trick.
Just gotta snap a photo to send it to maybe one more. Yeah,
What?
Then you can show your family work. I really should.
Oh yeah. I did it, Mom. I made it. Dude, you even have the American flag. It's for English. American English. Or that's how Linux works.
You guys put the mic on?
No.
There's a mic. You I guess. The mic on. You're welcome.
You can use a microphone. I don't need one. Neither do I, so we can use projects.
It might be for the recording more than for the
This is it?
Yes. Yeah.
How do you do this? Just plug.
Yeah. If you do it wrong, you'll get tased.
I don't want to get dazed.
I can't help it. I'll go. You take it. You guys can start
Okay, do we need to switch it? Do you need to give it to each other? Like switch the mic, or just as long as I stay near it?
If you guys just hold each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the.
It's like a three-legged race, but with a presentation.
Right.
We're good. Is this good? Test.
Test 1, 2.
Test. Okay. You want to begin? Hello, everybody. Hello.
Hi.
If we can take 20 minutes of your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Welcome to our talk. Our talk is about IoT devices and why they desperately need help. My name is Issa Hafiri. I'm a second-year master's student here at RIT, currently pursuing a degree in computer security. I'm interested in penetration testing, hardware hacking. I like to know how stuff work, how to break them, and how to make them better. No, I was not named after the Information System Security Association, the people down there. It's just a coincidence.
And me, my name is Christian Halbert. I'm a bachelor's student here at RIT. I work in the Safe Lab as an applied research assistant. I'm a very big person into security enthusiasts, and I like to read a lot of the different articles and figure out a bunch of the new malware, any type of exploits that come out. I'm a future security pen tester. I have an offer or two, or maybe even look into other offers for once I graduate. And lulz.
Okay. So Christian and I are part of the RIT Safe Lab. RIT Safe Lab is a project that attempts to bridge the gap between the security industry and the students. Basically, what happens is the companies approach us and they ask us to do their penetration testing or their security assessment, and we get students to work on this project. We do all kinds of stuff from infrastructure testing, pen testing, code audits, social engineering. If you're a security vendor or a company or a student who wants to get involved, please contact Professor Rob Olson. He's the guy in the back. He will be more than happy to give you info. So every now and then we get some free time. And you know, we don't always get to work on projects, but we try to keep working on our pet projects. And the last one that we got is, we just wanted to see, we always hear about how IoT is insecure. And to the point that when you say that name IoT, the first thing that people think about is insecurity and a number of vulnerabilities out there. But we just wanted to test that theory.
One of the things that we went through and looked at, obviously everyone's heard of the Mirai botnet. What was it? Everyone knows that it's a collection of IoT devices that were taken control of by some malicious user and used to distribute a denial of service. How did it spread? Obviously a bunch of really badly designed, badly configured IoT devices. As for the actual devices themselves, highly insecure. Credentials, a lot of them are running off of base credentials or default credentials, something that you could easily break into in about 5 minutes, maybe. Services, a lot of IoT devices run a selective group of services that might be required, might not be. A few of them will have services that are just running that you kind of look at and be like, why? Why are you even running this? Connections, they also make random connections to different countries. Don't understand why, but a big one is China. And as a result of these three main things, it's kind of understandable that the Mirai spread was not really a coincidence.
Okay, so what we did is we just went on Amazon and we said, let's buy a couple of random products and see, put that theory to the test. Can we hack them? What can we find there? We went and, we went on the assumption that we might not, hack into those systems, but let's give it a shot. So the first target that we bought is a wall-mounted surveillance camera. The thing is like $45 on Amazon. Basically, you mount it on a wall and you power it through an AC adapter or a power over Ethernet. And what's interesting about it, it's how easy it is to set this thing up from the moment you plug it in to the moment you have feed on your mobile app. We started with the box, and the box says it has worldwide control. Well, that's good. And what we noticed immediately is all of them came with default creds. They all use the same credentials, which are admin. So to set this thing up, it's two basic steps. You download this mobile app. You connect your mobile phone to your local network. You search for the LAN. You search over your LAN network for the camera. This UID field gets auto-populated with the camera that it detects, and the manual literally say, leave the password as the default that is already populated and hit connect. Anybody have an idea why this may be the case with these products? Exactly, but why?
Ease of use for non-technical users?
Exactly. What we think is that when you mass produce a cheap product like this and you want to push it to the market, one thing you want to cut down is your customer support. If you can set it up in a very easy way, there is a good chance that customers will not call you and say, well, I changed the password, I locked myself out, I cannot, log back to the camera. This product didn't even have a website for support. You just buy it and you're on your own. So what's really interesting is, how does this work in the background? I mean, you have your mobile app, but whenever you travel, you can use your mobile app to access the camera while it's at your home. So what we did is we plugged the camera, we put a Kali box in the middle between the camera and the internet connection. We connected the mobile using Android debug and put that behind a Kali box. And we just wanted to see how it works. So apparently what happens is, as soon as you plug in your camera, the camera sends beacons to 3 servers in China connecting that camera ID. It says, hey, listen, I'm behind this public IP address and this is my camera ID. Your mobile app does the similar thing. It sends a request to those public IP addresses in China, asking for the IP address of that camera. The server responds, it says, this camera is behind that IP address, and the connection takes place. The problem is, all of this happens in clear text. Now, I'm not going to give you the scenario that, well, imagine you're in Starbucks and somebody's sniffing your packets and they get your user ID and their camera ID. Chances are people will not follow you to Starbucks. I mean, I don't know why. Like, I feel sad for them. They're like the #1 example for bad Wi-Fi or bad Wi-Fi security. But what we see here is a UDP packet that contains the camera ID, and then the username and password, and another UDP packet that is base 64 encoded. Here is the big issue that we found with this product. When we were testing the mobile app had a mechanism to check whether you have a valid camera ID or not. It was completely offline, which made us think, what could be there to check if this is a valid ID or not? So what we did is we downloaded the APK, reverse engineered it, and we found those. So if your camera ID the camera ID has 3 digits or 3 parts, the first and third part has to be one of those predefined strings, which leaves us with an integer of 6 digits in the middle. Now, there's a good chance that those cameras, once they're sold, they have default credentials. We know the IP address of the Chinese website, the Chinese servers. And we can definitely brute force a 6-digit number. What's next? So it's kind of scary that this thing is being sold, for the public and it's being used, but nobody knows how it's working in the background. Anybody who is sniffing those camera IDs on the way, if you believe that, foreign governments, whenever it hits that foreign server, gets your camera ID, they have a good chance to log into this camera.
Was there actually a way to change the password on it?
There was.
Okay.
But the interesting thing that when you read the manual, it doesn't say anywhere, or it doesn't advise you to change the password. It just says, leave it as it is.
You keep mentioning China, but it says Vietnam in the packet capture there. I'm just wondering if that had...
Oh, so this is from the, when we decompiled the application. This is the source code of the mobile app.
Okay, got it.
Another thing we found is that when you use its web UI, the camera's web UI, to access the video feed, what this camera does, it sends a bunch of JPEG pictures. And you don't need rocket science to export those objects from the HTTP traffic and end up getting the feed. So that was for product 1. Now Christian is going to talk about the second product we tested.
So the second product we found readily available for $35. A lot of people would get it. It's a nanny cam, baby cam, something that can either be wall mounted or you can mount it right on top of like a dresser or something, just to keep an eye on children or activity in your house. It uses AC power, and you can connect it via Wi-Fi, which is the two rods in the back, or you can connect it with an Ethernet cord and just have it go to a central location. Ports. Why so many? Just doing a simple Nmap scan of it brought up a ton of ports. I don't know what half of these are even doing. We know that the camera obviously has to use the port 8554 RTSP, but the other ones are kind of questionable about why it needs it. Also, as you can see, there's another port at the top, which is very questionable about why it would need a telnet, but okay.
Can you turn them off?
No. So we found using the web UI through just a little bit of investigation that the authentication you can entirely bypass. You can put in any type of username or password, and If you know like the next part, it'll say, oh hey, you authenticated badly. But if you just strip out the bottom, the end of the stream, and just put main, it takes you right to the page anyway. It doesn't care. As you can see, it just ignores the authentication failure message, and you type in the correct URL. Everything's fine. Replay.
An authentication attempt.
What's that?
So if you go back to your screen, you have the screenshot shows admin is logged in the third screenshot. If I just type main without attempting to authenticate, will it still let you in?
Yes.
Or do you have to have an authentication attempt first?
You have to. Yeah, you can. We've tried both. You can do both. There's sometimes where the one you're talking about won't work.
So as far as the web UI, all you need to do is issue a GET request and then go.
And then
Yeah.
So you have to hit index at least to get the GET request to get to
Yeah.
Yeah.
We discovered that you could do replay attacks fairly simply. Put request, a lot of it's using put. It does not implement any authentication or replay prevention at all. You can literally just continue to spam the same thing over and over, and it's completely fine with it. This one we used several different things to do. We could black out the feed, turning the brightness down to 0, and you can't see anything. We created several new users without any authentication. We weren't even logged into the actual UI at all. It just accepted it. And we could turn it, tilt it, whatever we wanted with it. And only in 27 lines. Not that hard. And a big portion of it was just making the payload. So in reality, maybe 7. Here's a little bit of the exploitation. The one on the top left is just adding or changing users. So if you had a current user that was already on there, you could just type the name of the user, the type of the users at the end for our script that we wrote, and what you wanted the password to be is in the middle. We had to specify the host as well, and it's, as you can see, it's okay with you doing that. You can add users, you can change users, do whatever you want, and it says, okay, we're fine. You don't have to be authenticated, you're good. And you can actually log in with those credentials in the web UI immediately after you run the script. The one on the bottom right shows us moving the camera. And we do not have video of the camera actually moving, but it does turn, tilt, do whatever you want with it. And nice little telnet backdoor. After realizing that we seen telnet on there, we decided to look around and try some regular passwords. It only took maybe 2 tries for the password, and it was like, oh, okay. And we decided to try this built-in shell, and it was perfectly fine with you doing that. And as you can see, the Etsy shadow file is perfectly able to be cracked using MD5. Some final thoughts. Throughout this process of just testing these 2 cameras, we found out that a lot of if it was just these 2, if it wasn't just these 2, there are a lot of cameras that are cheap on Amazon, on eBay, any type of platform for buying these type of products, that it's probably going to have some similar services or some similar issues. So one of the main things you should really do is do some research before buying. A lot of the things can be easily prevented by just doing a little bit of research on it, seeing if there's any exploits that have already been found, or if some of the services are actually documented. You can do the next. Which one? The vendor stuff.
Yeah, we noticed that if you buy from a reputable vendor, there is a good chance that you're gonna end up with good customer support. This apparently both the products that we bought lack customer support. If you had an issue, you didn't know who to call. And we know that this is difficult to keep, but try to look for updates and try to update and keep your firmware up to date. And this is basically it. Any thoughts?
Any thoughts, questions?
So were these the only 2 products that you bought, or are these the 2 that are worse and therefore you showcased?
We had three cameras, but we didn't get time enough to get to the 3rd camera. we had these two cameras that we had bought and we decided to test.
Did you fingerprint these two cameras using Shodan?
We
So people could actually like spray out and go out to Shodan, figure out where this specific model is. Like, is there a specific signature and identification for these cameras that somebody could use Shodan, find out what these cameras are, and then use these techniques or no?
we tried, but so we have this kind of RIT strict policy not to go beyond testing the actual, beyond the product itself.
Did you know that there was a signature though that you could specifically identify? Like, if you did a version on any of the open source, would it actually say the camera name, or did you?
No, so, most of those were like customly built services.
Okay.
I'm sure there is a way to put up, to put a fingerprint, but we didn't go that far.
And then the second question, the UDP JPEG images that you got earlier, were those encrypted at all? Like you said, you could capture the JPEGs as they were being captured.
Yeah, so
Was that encrypted at all, or no?
they were in HTTP.
Okay.
So what we did is just exported the HTTP.
So those were HTTP.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
So those aren't UDP. Okay.
So a tip that I read for avoiding buying stuff like this, before you buy any kind of gadget, go to the vendor's website and get the PDF manual for the model that you're considering. If you read that PDF, then it doesn't say anything there, for example, about changing default passwords, maybe you want to stay away from that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's very good advice.
You
Yes.
can also probably tell from a vendor website if they are updating firmware, because there would be an area where you could go put in that model number and get the current firmware download. Some of them require you to put in a valid serial number to authenticate, but most of them just plug it in.
I mean, that's personally what I would do, but I would say that the main driving reason behind buying those cameras is that they're cheap and they're very easy to use. I don't think that, well, yes, well, customer education is number one. We have to educate customers on when you buy, do your homework.
Right.
But yeah, you're totally correct.
So that's just a way to do that homework that's accessible to everyone. They don't have to have any technical chops to get a PDF of the user manual and read it, look for certain things, right? So there's your angle for the education message that would be more digestible by the public.
Yep. Yeah. Questions? Yes.
So you had a wizard get picture with QR code.
Yeah.
Can you say something about that?
Do you want me to say something about that? Okay. So the QR code, so both of them had two different QR codes. The second product, this QR code is a URL for the mobile app to get you there and download it. And the more interesting one is, we're not showing it. The one for the first product is, there was a QR code on the box itself with the camera ID and the password. The interesting stuff is that it's also available on the web UI, but when you change the username and password, this QR code remains the same and it's still valid for the camera.
So it's hard coded ability?
Yeah.
Yes. Very much so.
Where password equals admin or whatever you set it to.
Yeah.
Thoughts on retrofitting some solution to these core products that might be applicable to beyond it?
I would say, I would recommend, when you have a web server running on one of those devices, have it, a standard web server instead of, custom building your own web server. Use packages that are more professionally developed. Something we noticed as well is that this software that is being used on one of the cameras was run on other products and had the same vulnerabilities. But in my opinion, use standard packages. They were, when we were enumerating.
Yeah, excuse me.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with what you're saying. I think though, my question is, I agree, avoid this, right? But for the thousands of people who've already purchased them and they're out there, it sounds to me like there might be a small market, right? For going in and helping people that already have it, that aren't gonna buy a new camera. thoughts on helping with that is this bad product. You take this camera, change the admin password, and the phone app doesn't work anymore, it's not useful for that guy. So now what are you gonna do? Because that's your only recourse from a product like this. Not to mention that it's never gonna not go to China. So
You have to block, you have to.
if you block it now again, it's useless.
Your app will
Yeah.
not find it.
I want that, I want it on my phone when I'm not in the house.
So it would be cheaper to buy a new one.
Yep.
Yes.
Right, because you have to set up a VPN and like basically secure your entire
Yes.
house, which maybe is what we should be doing anyway.
Roll your own firmware.
Yeah,
Do you find people care?
not really.
Not really.
No.
See, that's the whole thing. Like, if you can do it, if it's easy, if you can get it up, that as long as it works. Like, most people don't even care. Most people don't even care about like revealing all of their private information. And like, they're not hiding anything, so someone can look at my house. Who cares? Like, is that? I'm not saying I agree with that. I'm just saying,
I totally agree with what you're saying, and
generally parts of the population, people that are probably buying these cameras, they probably don't care.
I totally agree with what you're saying, but I just remembered one thing, is that when we went to the Amazon page, some guy was freaking out because the camera was moving at 3 a.m. So when that
When you
happens,
respond, they're like, "That's just resyncing. It's okay."
yeah.
It works when it suits.
Your hand was first.
Something I just wanted to add is the images is really cool. You can also do like recip traffic. You can do like a Wireshark packer and like replay the audio. So I just thought that was an interesting kind of thing to add as far as like
Yeah. We have 2 minutes. So.
I think one thing you kept using the term standard package. When you look at a lot of these, especially with the MJPEG stream, it's the exact same software across hundreds of millions of products. Right? So that is more standard than the secure software that is available here in the United States or somewhere else. Where these are coming out of, this is the standard. Right? This is the best option that makes the most sense for developers to move forward and be able to make a product with a camera and a motor in plastic that is the same price as regular glass that has video and still make profit. And so until there's like someone pushing upstream to these things to change it in where they are being developed, there's no incentive to change it at all.
I agree.